My name is Mike Hillis, and I'm the Dean of the Graduate School of Education here at Cal Lutheran. Starting my third year, it's been great to be here. It's definitely beats the weather of the Northwest, which I always want to remind people of. Well, I'm a little bit more nervous than I usually am. I apologize for that. So anyway, it's probably all of the wonderful partnership we have here with Conejo Valley Unified School District. Just a little bit of background about Cal Lutheran. So we're very proud to be associated with the community of Ventura County. We've done a lot of work over the years, supplying teachers, administrators, school counselors. I think our latest count was about 8,200 in those categories through the years. And as wonderful as the past has been, we're also very excited about the future. And really, I think more than anything, we're attempting to be a resource for the community around issues of education. So one of the ways that we're attempting to do this is to provide resources to outreach, much like hosting this here. We did it last year for the first time, and to do it again this year is great. But it's also trying to provide resources for trying to improve education for everybody. One of the issues one of the areas that we're doing this through is what we call the Center for Innovative Learning. And the Center for Innovative Learning is an initiative where we try and bring in various speakers, host films. We did a film last year. And that way that we can reach out to the broader community. One of the things that we're really trying to focus in on is how do we become outward-facing as a graduate school of education, recognizing that at times universities get the bad rap of being the ivory tower and dislocated from communities. I can assure you, and I'm sure you all know, that is very opposite to what Cal Lutheran is trying to do and the Graduate School of Education. One quick announcement I would make is an example of this. In a couple weeks, on October 28th, we are hosting a Susan Greiser Price Arts and Learning Symposium. This is an event that we do every year. Some of you may be aware of events that we've done in the past. This year is exciting because we're also partnering with a brand new center on the Cal Lutheran campus called the Autism and Communication Center. And what we're doing this year for the Susan Greiser Price Symposium is we're linking work with children of autism with the arts. And so if you're interested in that, you can go to the Cal Lutheran website and register. So it's in a couple weeks on October 28th. Additionally, just as an announcement, that continues the work with autism, one of our faculty members just received a nice size federal grant on working with children that are labeled twice exceptional. So it's students who are gifted, but also are on the autism spectrum. And so we're excited about that. It's a 5-year grant that will begin momentarily, much to the trepidation of the faculty member that just received it. So with that, it's also my great privilege to introduce Mike Soule. But wait, I got more. I actually have to say something about Mike. So Mike Soule, the president of Corwin, is the leading provider of innovative professional services and publications for P20 educators. Corwin is committed to collaborating with schools, districts, departments, institutions of education to deliver training and tools that build capacity, are evidence-based, and have a positive change on instructional practice. I know we're also excited within the Graduate School of Education having a couple faculty members that have recently published books through Corwin. Through long-term partnerships with authors, policymakers, and associations, Corwin sits at the nexus of research to practice and practice to research. Mike is most proud of the talented and dedicated all-star team that helped bring Corwin's work to life every single day. Mike has held senior leadership roles at the Channel One Network, Laureate, and Teachscape. The through line of Mike's career has been pioneering unique platforms to provide meaningful and impactful content that educators need and want. Mike also serves as a regent of California Lutheran University. He's also the president of the Conejo Schools Foundation. He's the former chair of the Ventura County Workforce Development Board. Mike also holds a BA in political science and a BA in history from the University of California, Los Angeles. We'll try not to hold that against him. Being a University of Washington grad, that strikes a little bit too close to home with the Pac-12. But anyway, it's great to have Mike here to welcome all of you as well. And so with that, Mike, come on up. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Don't forget, as a regent, we do have our meeting, and we're looking at budget, so I really appreciate that. That's right. Thank you all so much for being here. You got up early on this gorgeous day in the Conejo, and we appreciate it. This morning, walking around, it's always like old home week here with so many friends that have mean so much to this community, but also to the Conejo Schools Foundation. In my volunteer life, I wear a number of hats, and I'm blessed to have the opportunity to spend time in a volunteer capacity, helping to make this great community just a little bit better, I hope. And one of the ways that we do that is through the Conejo Schools Foundation. The foundation is about 13 or 14 years old. We are an independent 501c3. We raise very quietly and competently close to $1 million every year through a variety of means. We'd like to raise more, so any of you out there who are interested, we're happy to talk about it. The wonderful thing is 88 cents of every dollar that gets raised goes right back into our schools. The other 12 go to our staff members who aren't paid very well, apparently, and for all of the other administrative and fiduciary obligations that we have as a foundation. We have done an incredible job in terms of what it is that we do. We really help to fill in the gaps, we hope, for the Conejo Valley Unified School District in terms of the Get Ahead program that we run during the summer, in terms of supporting Naviance and those programs, Cash for Conejo Schools, which are mini grants that go right into our classrooms. Yes, you can applaud for that. Great program. The All-District Music Festival, that is another incredible community event that we do, unique to the Conejo, and so many, many other things that we have the opportunity as parents and business members, parts of the community, to help raise funds for our schools here in the Conejo. And so I want to thank the board of the Conejo Schools Foundation. Board members, if you're here, do you mind standing for just a moment of recognition? Really appreciate it very much. We launched this event a year ago. It feels like a real tradition already, and we appreciate, again, all of you for coming up here. I couldn't remember all of the sponsors, so I had to bring this up with me so I could just take a look so that we can see who is here. The sponsors really represent, I think, the fabric of this great community that we've got. The Greater Conejo Valley Chamber of Commerce, and I'm sorry Jill is out of town today, but we thank them so much. Cal Lutheran, absolutely fantastic facility, and as Dean Hillis talked about, CLU really is a community-minded institution, one that welcomes us and so many others with open arms on this great campus. Mustang Marketing, our partners in all of the promotions that we do, CVUSD, obviously, and we're going to hear from Mark McLaughlin in just a few minutes to hear more about some of the great things that are happening in our school district, but also what are some of the challenges that we face and how can we all work together to help solve some of those. Sports Academy, new to our community, but already making a mark, and we're proud that they've chosen to partner with us on this event and others. The Oaks, I like to say that I'm a pioneer. I've lived here for over 22 years. The reason I say I'm a Thousand Oaks pioneer is because I lived here before Nordstrom's, and so UCLA Health, thank you very much for being here. White House Properties, especially Sue Wells, who wrote the check for White House Properties, so thank you, Sue. Gelson's, our new neighbor, over there on Avenida de los Arblos. If you haven't been, go. Do you like it? I'm doing a commercial for each one of these people. CYBA, all three of my sons went through CYBA. They're all retired now in the Hall of Fame. Boys and Girls Clubs, we love them. Absolutely fantastic program. AAUW, Sally's here and her gang. They make a lot of noise back in the back. We appreciate the noise you make. UACT, our partners, thank you very much. Yes, you can apply for UACT. It's good. Absolutely fantastic. We appreciate all the support that you give, and Los Robles Hospital and Medical Center, my hospital of choice. I could tell some stories, but I'm not going to. Folks, thank you. And I would thank all of the elected officials, but we have so many of them that I can't. And we appreciate the fact, anybody who has the courage to stand for election, especially in these times, we appreciate it and take our hat off to you. And we want to thank you all very, very much for being here and for the support that you provide to the Conejo Schools Foundation as well. One of the exciting things that happened this last year is that Conejo Schools Foundation was named as the California Foundation of the Year. And we thank Senator Stern for his endorsement and for the work that he put in to make sure that that happened, and obviously all the volunteers and the hours and hours that people have given. We were recognized in great part, for a program called Parents Making a Difference. And Anya's here. This program is absolutely inspirational in terms of helping to give a voice to a community that sometimes is voiceless, and to really empower parents to make a difference in their kids' lives and serve as strong advocates for them. And so, Anna, thank you so much for the work that you do, and we're so proud that we get to be a little piece of that. So congratulations to all of us. And I've got to thank Cindy, who is there she is. Cindy's in the back directing, folks. Cindy Goldberg, who is the executive director of the Conejo Schools Foundation. We couldn't do what we do without her. She is the glue and the connector in this community, and has served ably for, gosh, almost a decade now. So that's kind of cool. I guess we'll have to do some kind of a party or something, just because. Just because it'll be fun to embarrass her. And, so thank you again, all of you, for being here. The work that we do as volunteers and as community members to support our schools is vitally important. In my professional life, I get the great opportunity to publish and create training around some of the greatest thinkers in the world. And I also get the chance and the honor to travel and visit schools all over the world. But there's none that I get more excited about coming back to than those right here in Conejo Valley. We live in a very blessed place. If the community members that we just talked about are the fabric of our community, then the schools that we have are the heartbeat of our community. It's the reason that so many of us moved here in the first place. It's the reason that so many of us stay. It's the social fabric that created most of the friendships that we have because of CYBA and flag football and PTAs. There you go. Because of all those things, think about the friends and the peer group that you have. And you can probably mark them as which of your sons or daughters were going through school, and when did you join Little League, or when were you a part of Indian Guides or whatever the program is that you may have been in. I know that those are some of the dearest memories that I have. And now that two of my sons have graduated, and I've got one who is a sophomore and doesn't talk to us any longer, I look wistfully back at all the events that we had to go to, and now I wish that we had more to go to. And so to all of you who have kids in this community, thanks to our great and fantastic public schools. Public schools, don't forget, have doors open to every child, all children, no matter where they're coming from, no matter their ability, welcomed with open arms. And that is uniquely American and something that we should be so proud of. We need to support our public schools because they are the cornerstone of a just and equitable society. In just a minute, we're going to hear from Mark, I promise. But we were overambitious, and we've got a very special guest here. The Westlake High Choir is going to sing for us, and so we'll let them sing because they've got incredibly beautiful voices. We heard the orchestra from Thousand Oaks, and now we'll hear the voices of these young adults from Westlake, and then it'll be my honor to finally welcome our superintendent, Mark McLaughlin.
Please rise for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the home of the brave, home of the brave.
All right, you guys can say you got a standing ovation. There you go. I know I mentioned Senator Stern, and I would be remiss not to acknowledge, even though I said I wasn't going to acknowledge all the elected officials and appointed officials, Assemblywoman Jackie Irwin, who's here. Jackie is one of the almost original founders of the Conejo Schools Foundation, and so the support that she's provided to us in this community is very, very important, and so I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you very much for all the years of continued support. And now, without further, yes, that's good. Okay, anybody else I need to suck up to? Let's see. No. Mark McLaughlin joined this community several years ago, and we are the better for it. I've seen him in action in the previous role that he still has, and the current role that he's moved into with great vision and leadership. There is a real spirit of cooperation that we haven't seen in a little bit, and we're just so proud to have him here in the Conejo and leading the Conejo Valley Unified School District. Without further ado, let me hand it over to you, Dr. McLaughlin. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, does that sound all right back there? All right. Well, I want to welcome everyone this morning. You know, as someone who's been in the HR office for the last few years, you've kind of were in a little hole and you kind of were quiet and, you know, you didn't really get out in front of a lot of folks. So, as I prepared to come into this morning, I was nervous. And then I realized the excitement and the family feeling that, that I felt as I walked in the door, hearing our students play, the conversation and interaction that are taking place. And to me, that's really important. And we'll get into why I feel that is important. But as we start today's presentation, first, I would like to introduce our board members. So if I could have our board members stand up for a moment, please. We have Board President Mike Dunn. Vice President John Anderson. Secretary Sandy Everett. Board Member Dr. Betsy Conley. And Board Member Pat Phelps. I'd also ask Stan Mantooth, our Superintendent for Ventura County Schools, to please stand up and be acknowledged. Also, if we have any past superintendents in the room, if you could stand up. I know Dr. Barstead is here, and Mario Contini. And many of you may not know this, but this is the week of the school administrator. So if I could have all of our administrators stand up and be acknowledged, as this is your week. So as we began this presentation and getting ready for today, I thought, when we came into the first planning meeting, what do our kids do? How are they involved in this? If it's the state of the schools, what did we do last year with our kids? And we had our peer leaders, from my understanding, sit at the tables, but I was like, why not include our programs? So that's when we decided to bring in our orchestra to play this morning, have our choir come in and do the Star Spangled Banner. We have the photographers are from Newberry Park, and the videographers are from Newberry Park, because it's really about our students. This event is a state of the schools, but it's what we do for kids and what our kids are able to do in the classrooms and the support that our administrators provide, and that's key. And we also do have our student mentors that are spread out throughout the tables, and you can talk to them about things that are happening at their school sites and the things that they are involved in at the schools and things like that, which I think is great. So as we move into today, if we have the teachers that are involved in those programs that are listed up here, Ashley Cooper, Amy Rolanek, Crystal Sundberg, Eric Lindroth, and Derek Grimes. If you're in the building, if you could stand and be acknowledged, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. And then as I look to my left here, these are some members of our executive team that if we have the opportunity to do a question and answer, we will. We do have a time frame that we're in this morning, and sometimes when I get excited, I overtalk, I overshare, and I'm an open book. So I don't have the venue, or very often do I have the venue to share a little bit about me as someone who is leading our district, who are making some very key decisions about how we support our kids with our board and with the help of these folks here. So I'll probably overshare a little bit with you about myself, and we'll get into also some really great things that are happening at our schools as well. And I'm a walker. And if I see someone not paying attention back there, I'm a teacher. So I may end up back there with my hand on your shoulder just to make sure you're engaged and you're listening. So just giving you a heads up on that. So today, in today's presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about my professional and personal background. And like I said, I'll probably overshare a little bit, but what makes CVUSD special, funding implications as we look at our state funding, school performance indicators, and just our connection to our community. So I'll begin a little bit about me. I'm originally from Butte, Montana. Has anyone been to Butte, Montana before? So there has been a few. Butte, Montana is a great city to grow up in. It may not have the best reputation within the city of Montana, but if you think about my childhood and you think of the movie The Sandlot, that was really how I grew up. And I have some stories that I'll share with you here in a little bit. But Butte, Montana is a mining town. It's a predominant Irish Catholic community. A lot of Notre Dame fans in my hometown. And it is also the home of Evel Knievel. And so, and I have some interesting stories about Bob because he grew up with my mom and dad. And I would say that my dad and him had a really good relationship. So as I was a kid growing up, I always had the opportunity when he was in town to go into his tour bus. I always had signed posters, and there were some interactions. But my mom was not a big fan of him. She was friends with his first wife, and probably knows more details about why she's not a big fan of him. But I would say he was probably pretty wild back in the day a little bit. And so when my dad passed away, I have a large family, lots of nieces and nephews. And so when my dad passed away, Bob had a black car, and everybody knew at this point in time he was living in Florida, and he'd come up for the summer months, but everyone knew when he was in town for the most part. And so here comes the black car down the street, and I'm at home. Lots of my nieces and nephews are there, and they're little, and they've heard stories of Evel Knievel growing up. And so he comes to the door. He rings the doorbell. My mom answers the door. She will not let him in the house. She actually spoke to him through the screen door. And so we have all of my nieces and nephews running around the house. They're all kind of looking around the corner, because Evel Knievel is here. And my mom wouldn't even let him in the door. And that's the only person that she didn't let in the door when they showed up to give their condolences. So I do have lots of stories of growing up a little bit around Evel Knievel and the stories from my parents. But, Butte was it was a great city. And when I talk about the Sandlot, I had a friend wrote a book, and it was called Life Lessons from the Richest Hill on Earth. And that's one of the things Butte's known for, is the richest hill on earth. And so this is the first part of two books, and he's working on the second book now. And so this book comes out, and one of our local newspaper editors or writers pick up on the story. And so they wrote a little bit about what's in this book. And it was about the McLaughlin twins. And so my mom was embarrassed because she didn't know what would be said in the book. And I want to read you just a couple paragraphs, a little bit about why I think family is important and the friendships that we gather. Mark and Mike McLaughlin were two of the toughest kids that we had ever met. They lived in a brick house across the street, many of backyard neighborhood championships. And they go on to list a bunch of sports that we did. And it was a great group to grow up with. Yes, we seemed to like football. We also seemed to like the McLaughlin twins. We were smart, as we knew the alternative would not bode well for future health. So my mom's reading this. And so they go on to say, towards the end of the story of this first chapter, about Mike and I and our epic fights between one another. Because we did spend a lot of time fighting, as twins normally do. And they talk about where twins would normally push each other, and that would be the end of it, or call each other bad names. But ours were a little bit more intense. I've broken a couple knuckles on this hand growing up, but they say the greatest thing about the twins was that they always had each other's back. If someone messed with one of the twins, you had to look over your shoulder for the next couple weeks, as the other twin was going to bring a wrath upon you one way or another. The general rule was applied to all of us neighborhood kids as well. If someone messed with one of us, we could be sure that Mark or Mike McLaughlin would make it right. They were great friends to have upon our side, not only in backyard sports, but in life. And to me, that's key, because it's a support. It's having each other's back. And I would say that our administrators in this district, I have their back through and through any of our issues that we deal with. And I know that that's key as we build a culture moving forward. So that was kind of a little bit about where I grew up and how I grew up, and I have some other stories. I tend to be a storyteller when I do PowerPoint presentations. I graduated from the University of Montana, where our rodeo team was bigger than our football team. As I moved out to California, I earned my master's in school administration through Azusa Pacific University. And then just recently, over the course of the last 3 years and finished in May, my dissertation and doctorate came from Cal Lutheran. So, so those who are interested in looking at going down the road of earning your doctorate, Cal Lu is a great program. And I have a great cohort that I'm still in contact with. While it's only been a few months, we tend to go our own separate ways. But it is a great program, 3 years, a Friday, Saturday a month over that period of time. There's lots of work that comes with it, but it is for those who are working, it is a great program. And I'm not just saying that as we're here in one of their spaces, but it is a great program. And then a little bit about my work history. And for me, my dad owned a large masonry company. So he was a bricklayer. And he put my twin brother and I to work at a very young age. It was a president's holiday. I think I was in 7th or 8th grade, with hod carriers or tenders, we call them. Sometimes the turnover is great, or they don't show up to work. The bricklayers are always there, but someone to give them the block, the mud, the supplies, they don't always show up because it is a tough job. And so 7th or 8th grade, President's Day, I had plans to go to the mall, do whatever, and here comes my dad. Someone didn't show up to work. He pulls Mike and I out of bed, not that we wanted to get out of bed, to go to a job site and start working. And I hated it, and I never liked it all growing up. It was hard work. Anytime we had the day off, we were at work, and my friends were off doing other things. And so, but now when I look back on it, the value and the work ethic that it's created in me has been very beneficial. And I will tell you, if you think trying to differentiate between 20 kids or 30 kids in a classroom is hard, try differentiating the type of mud that you put up on a mud board for 13 bricklayers, because they all like it differently, and they're not very nice if you don't give it the way they like it. So I had to learn at a young age how to differentiate and how to interact with folks differently. I also had to learn the value of thinking ahead, because I remember one of my first jobs, and the bricklayers and the foreman did a good job of letting Mike and I learn how to do the job and do it right, and not saying, "No, they're the boss's kids. We're gonna, do whatever." We get up on a job site, and McLaughlin's for us, bricklaying is something that we just do. My father came over from Ireland. He was a bricklayer. My 3 uncles were bricklayers. I have lots of cousins that were bricklayers. And McLaughlin's are short and stocky. And we fit under scaffold jacks, that are about 6 feet high. So sometimes you may catch the tip of your hard hat, and it'll knock you out almost. But that's just the way we're built, as we're built to be bricklayers. And so you get up on a job, and you have 2 or 3 courses before the top of the wall. And Mike and I are like, bring the block up, bring the block up. So the low ed keeps continuing to bring block up. Well, we only had 2 courses, and block is heavy. And what I learned from that is, one, you need to think ahead, and you don't want to overstock a wall. Because what happens when you overstock, you know what you're doing? Now you're spending time taking it all back off. And to me, that was a valuable lesson learned about planning ahead, thinking about what needs to be done, and planning to meet that goal, and not overthink it sometimes. So that to me was key growing up. My education career, so when I finished school, and I worked in the construction field for 9 years, 10 years. And the first job I worked on, I didn't even know how to put block down for the bricklayers. That one job that I talked about, it was a movie theater in town. The last job that I worked on, I was the head laborer / hod carrier tender on the job site, and it was the largest job in the state. So in those 8-9 years, the things I learned brought me from not knowing how to put block out to running job sites. And to me, that's the same as education. My first year as a teacher, I probably struggled a lot. My last year as a teacher, I probably was a lot better. My first year in human resources, I probably struggled a little bit. My last year, or currently in, I'm probably a little bit better. So as we get into this route as a superintendent, this is my first year. I'm learning things. I don't know if I'm putting block down on the job site correctly, if I'm turning them upside down, if I'm not differentiating properly, if my interactions aren't appropriate. So those are things I'm learning, and it all ties back to my experience working at the job sites. So I finished school, I go to Fontana. I was an elementary teacher. I taught kindergarten, 2nd, and 4th grade. And I love my experience in Fontana. I've only looked to leave Fontana once. I only looked at EdJoin one time to find a job, and that was here. And I didn't know when I looked it up where Conejo was. We knew about Thousand Oaks, so I did a little bit of research. Conejo was the only place I've ever applied for a job outside of Fontana. I never thought I'd get to have a chance in getting the opportunity to come work here. And I will tell you, that's the last time I've looked at EdJoin. My experience in Thousand Oaks has never led me down the path of looking for another job. I love what I do here. The opportunity for people to work in this community and call this our home, I think sometimes people take it for granted, but this is an unbelievable place. And when you live somewhere else and work somewhere else in California, and you have the opportunity to come here, it is a whole different feel. And to me, that's key, and I think about that every single day. So I'm going to show you this video, and this is a comedian, and he with a positive message. And so some point in time in his message, he stops, he sits down, and he has some interaction with the audience. And to me, his interaction is very positive because it's all about the why. Why do we do this job? Why do I come to work every day? Why are we here this morning? Who needs what and why?
So you're a musical director.
Yes,
Cool.
sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow.
That bro could sing. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Right now I'm found, was blind, but now I see.
So here's the thing. The first time I asked him to sing, he knew what he was doing. The second time I asked him to sing, he knew why he was doing it. When you know your why, your what has more impact because you're walking in or towards your purpose.
So what's my why? And so I think about this all the time. And so, like I said, I go a lot back to how I was raised. And my dad and mom taught us a couple different things, and we had sayings in the household, probably like many of you have, and maybe they're very similar. One was, the first one up, the best one dressed. The second one was, what's said in this house stays in this house. The third one was, drop the left and come back with the right. I hate to say it, but it's true. And growing up in a little Irish Catholic mining community, it comes in handy. And then my dad used to tell a story about building a cathedral. And so the story goes that there's a traveler who comes into town, and he walks upon a job site, and he asks one of the first bricklayer, "What are you doing?" And the bricklayer responds, "I'm laying bricks." Says, "Okay." Doesn't have much information. Goes to the next bricklayer. Asks the bricklayer, "Well, what are you doing?" He says, "Oh, I'm building a wall." Okay. Still not telling him any idea what is being built. He goes to the third bricklayer, and he asks, "What are you building?" And the bricklayer stops, and he points up to the sky and he says, I am building a cathedral for the Almighty. Well, and that's key because it was just a building. But the first bricklayer looked at it as a job. He's laying bricks. It's a job. The second bricklayer looked at it as, this is my career. The third bricklayer knew his why, he knew his purpose, and he knew that it was his calling. And so when I think about what my why is, and the things that my dad said growing up is, if you're going to do a job, do it right. My calling and my job has always been in education. And it started in the classroom where I could impact 20 kids. Then I moved up to the intermediate grades where I could impact 35 kids. Then it went to a place where I was a teacher on assignment where I could impact teachers at all of our secondary school sites. So I had a bigger effect on what was happening in our district. Then I went to a school site. So my elementary school where I was a principal had 900 kids, multi-year, year-round. We were always on. And I had an impact of those 900 kids. I had the ability to transition with that group of kids after 3 years to the middle school, where I was a middle school principal of a school of 1,400 kids. And so I have a larger impact. I went to the Human Resources Department in Fontana, a bigger impact. I come here to Conejo, a large impact. And now I'm in a position that has an impact district-wide with our teachers, our classified folks, our students, and everyone within this community. As we can see, the family feel that I feel here today, the conversation, the dialogue that I heard as I was walking through is an unbelievable feeling. And so when you think about what my why is, my why this year was to bring this back, was to have a community feeling. We have some things that we got to do as a school district and some really hard decisions that we got to make moving forward. But my why this year was this. My why was this, a family. And everyone in here knows, after hearing my story, that I have your back. And I'm really good if I have your back. It'll be helpful at some point in time. And according to the book. So that's my why. And so here I am. This is one of the job sites. This was actually just to show that I actually did work. And I'm not just a storyteller. That's me on the right. This is 1988. The school site that we're working on is that's the public high school behind us. And we are building a huge addition, gymnasium, classrooms, CTE area onto this school. And it took a couple of years to do. But that was the crew that I basically grew up with. When I look at that picture, I could tell you who was laying bricks, who was building a wall, and who was building a cathedral. Because there are people in this picture that fell on all three of those categories. And so to me, it's key that when we look at this, that you think about, and I think about how I was raised and the things that my father told me. And this is my dad right here. The second guy in the back, and he's pretty short and stocky, just probably similar to me. Here's my twin brother right in the middle, and then in that picture I have lots of relatives. And this was a crew that I grew up with, working with for 8-9 years. And every time I go back, they still ask me if I'm interested in coming back and being a hod carrier. They said they haven't found any good ones since. And I learned at a young age it's easier to do a job right and work hard and get it done correctly than just not do it at all. And so I will tell you, I'm kind of a little guy. And when you build a Walmart, we did commercial buildings. The concrete blocks on the foundation weigh about 95 pounds a piece. Bricklayers usually use two guys to lay each block. But as someone on the scaffolding, unloading the pallet of block, you're usually by yourself. So I probably weighed 110 pounds in these pictures. And I'm doing Walmart, and just one more quick story. It's the end of the day. We just get done doing these concrete blocks, and I'm rubbing down a door jamb because mud had fallen on it, and that's just kind of what you did at the end. I couldn't even lift my arm up. I was so tired. And if you think about the way Walmart is set up, when you walk in, it's a rectangle. In the far left-hand corner, in most of them, that's where their door is to unload and load supplies. That's what I'm rubbing down. And I probably was, in all intents and purposes, probably doing a half-assed job because I was tired. And my dad walked in 4:15, and he saw me not doing the job I was supposed to be doing, and he chewed me from the time he walked in the door, and you think about Walmart, all the way across. And so it never happened again. So I learned my lesson. But anyhow, so building a cathedral. And you can see the Conejo way. And this is something that I put out as soon as the board announced me as coming in and as the interim superintendent. And you always think of what is it that I'm going to do with our group. And I came up with the Conejo way because it was really important for us to bring back the family feeling, the ability to interact with one another, the ability to take chances and be innovative and not worry about if there's going to be any discipline that follows or that you're going to be called out on the carpet. And so with that, you'll look, the very top thing, it's all about our students. As we saw today, I'm 1,000% all about our kids. There is nothing more to me that we do is about our kids. And then the next thing I look at is who needs what and why? Who needs what and why? Is it a student who needs something and why? Then we got to do it. If it's an adult issue, I look at two things. Is it an adult issue that's going to have a positive effect on something that happens with our students or something that happens with our climate and culture? Then we need to come up with a solution. If it's an adult problem that has no impact on our kids and has no impact on what we do at the school side or no impact on our climate and culture, that's an adult issue. And we'll address that issue when we can. And so Bob has been really good lately, and I don't think, he has no idea that this was going to be part of my presentation at all. None. And he, even yesterday in my office, he says, well, what's the why? What's the why? And I've not shared that this has kind of been my thinking all along, but he picked up on it. And I don't know if he realizes that, but it kind of gets me going a little bit every time he asks the why. Because if we're not asking why, and we're just doing things, then that's a waste of dollars, which Victor keeps a very tight hold on. And we're not doing good things for kids at the elementary and secondary site, which Jeannie and Jim keep a very good eye on. And so we have to function as a team. So it's important that we know our business, that we be innovative, that we have teamwork, and we know our details. It's all about the details. We do not want to overstock a wall with heavy block. We want to have balance between family, friends, and your work life. In our community, we have active parents. They want to be involved. And they want to email at all hours of the night. And they want a response back the next day. I mean, the next day, the next minute. Sorry. And I've talked to our principals and our administrators. We got to step back. We should not be working at 9:30 at night. We just shouldn't be unless there's an emergency. And we shouldn't be working on the weekends. And we have to have that balance between family and friends. I had 5 administrators come to me at the end of last year and ask to go back to the classroom, back to the classroom, or a lower level in administration. To me, that's an issue. That, to me, shows that we weren't and did not have a balance. We were overworking folks so much that they weren't enjoying their job. And so to me, if we don't get anything out of this year, that to me is the most important piece, is to get that balance back of family, friends, and work life. And I know some days are longer than other days, but if we don't have that balance, we're going to have people looking to do something different. And this group of administrators that we have and our group of teachers that we have are the best. And the last thing I want to do is have people doing something else. As you can tell, I do like to have a little bit of fun and really praise others. And my board members will tell you that in most of my board reports on the week, each week, I do acknowledge somebody towards the very end for the things that they are doing or contributing to our district. Because I think it's important that our board members know on a regular basis what's happening and who's doing the good work. And so to me, acknowledging folks in that way, board meetings, coming by and saying hello. I'm kind of a social butterfly, and so I get out to our departments frequently and regularly, and to me, people seeing my face and talking to them about things away from work is really important. So when we talk about our why and building a cathedral, for me, the Conejo way this year is my why. And so as I came into this and looked at my entry plan, there was 3 things that I wanted to focus on with our board, which was create a vision and share expectations, data analysis and informed decision making, and sustainability and planning for the future. So how do we do that? One, I wanted to foster effective governance which we're working on, and we had some trainings this week. Positive and transparent relationships, cultivate public trust, commitment and confidence, research organizational effectiveness, research and foster a supportive, positive, and effective school-wide and district-wide climate, and analyze and support student achievement for all learners. And as we get into some data pieces, we'll talk a little bit about the all learners. Let me just see how I'm doing time-wise. So in our district, we have 17 elementary schools, 1 independent program, 1 K-8, 4 middle schools, 1 hybrid learning, and 3 high schools. For us, some key highlights is that we have National Blue Ribbon schools, our California Gold Ribbon schools, California Distinguished Schools, and CIF divisions and state championships. And those are important as we sell our community. And one of the things that I've noticed since I've been here is, as a district, we're not doing a very good job in the marketing aspect. And we've got to improve in that. We've got to market what's happening at our school sites. If people in our district don't know what's happening, people outside our district don't know what's happening. And when we look at some enrollment stuff, you're going to see why that's important. Here are just a couple things that we've had some CVSD employees and students say through the course of the last year. So our elementary school spotlight. When we take a look at what's happening at our school sites, we have our SHINE program, which was implemented last year. That's our independence homeschool study program. Does anyone know that we offer a homeschool program other than our administrators? Okay, you see why I'm saying we have a marketing issue. We have an issue that's been identified since I've come in. If no one in this room who is part of our community knows that we offer that, then we have a problem. We have a great outdoor school program that's been going on for years that our kids love, I know our board loves, and I know our parents of 6th graders send their kids off for a week. I'm sure they love that. But I also know that the folks who work in that program love it as well. When we look at Aspen, their arts master's program is key for that school site. And we have 17 elementary schools. I'm not going to highlight them all, but these are just some of the key things that we're looking at. At Walnut, create a club and a coding club, which is key, especially when we look at coding moving forward in the future. The Create Club is kind of like a maker space. Come in, play around with different materials, see what you can create and invent. Our student homework center, homework philosophy at Acacia, and I think Kirsten's in the house. Where's Kirsten at? Kirsten's back there, and I would say I've seen Kirsten do miracles on Acacia's campus. When I came in 5 years ago, the campus was struggling a little bit. What I see now happening in that school site, we're adding staff. So she had a group of families and kids leaving that site. This year, we had conversations about adding faculty and staff back on that campus. To me, that is the work. She did some amazing things in the course of the last 5 years, and it's showing. And I think the community sees that in her homework philosophy and a bunch of other things that she's doing on her campus. But it's been great. And I could single out each of our principals, but when I talk about having someone's back, Kirsten and I worked really close together towards the end of that first year to really just talk some things through. And for that, and to see what she's been able to do with her staff and her community has been amazing. Glenwood offers their target time, which is key, and then our STARS program that's coming in, being implemented first go around this year at Ladera with the beginning phases, and we're really working on bringing that science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics as a magnet moving forward. So Acacia's got some things that they've been working on and moving forward with. And Ladera's got some things that they're moving forward with as well, as far as academy and things like that. So we have some great things at the elementary that are taking place. We have IRFs on there. which is a fantastic school. Dr. Boone was the principal of that school when it started up as we were doing a transition. We have waiting lists for that school to get in. My goal is to have waiting lists at all of our school sites and to get them in, not just have waiting lists, to get folks into our school district. Our middle schools, continuing the greatness and excellence. Our web program at Clean Where Everyone Belongs is really key to building that climate and culture. Our outdoor school programs. Over at Redwood, their activities, the way they're banned and things like that, are phenomenal. When you come from a district that didn't have some of these things in place and you see what happens at our middle schools as far as bands, you would look at our bands that I saw at our high schools are equal to the bands that we have at our middle schools. So you know that that's a key piece that's happening on our campuses, and we know that that feeds into our high schools, and that's why our high school activities are great. Our math counts at Sycamore Canyon, which is key, and they also have their culture in the garden out there. Our champs, positive behavior at Los Cerritos, and they also have a professional development school where for 10 years, we've had a key relationship with Cal Lutheran, and I can tell you where Jason knows that this program is phenomenal. We know that that program is phenomenal, and the ability to come in and work with our teachers and have folks come in and work with our teachers is awesome. And then our Discover program at Academy, at Sequoia, which we expanded last year, and is kind of a pipeline from IRS, is a great program, and continuing their great work at Sequoia. For our high schools, the list could go on and on and on and on. TO has their Ethos program. Century Academy, their one-to-one initiative. Going back to TO a little bit, their freshmen started the one-to-one initiative, so all their freshmen this year, within the last 2 weeks, have received their Chromebooks. So we've started, that's really our first true one-to-one initiative as far as a school site is concerned, and to me that's really important, especially as we continue to implement our Measure I and appropriate funding of those things with our bond measure. Westlake, the academic support centers where their students are acting as tutors and the kids are going in and getting that valuable tutelage with peers. The IB program at Newberry Park, and then the CT program over at Conejo. And if you've not had the opportunity to go by Conejo Valley High School, obviously we've been dealing with that over the course of the last couple of years, and it has turned out fantastic. And I would encourage everybody to come to 402 Jans Road, because they have their new address, and check it out. The district-wide spotlight, obviously we have great teachers, fantastic counselors. Our psychologists are unbelievable. Our classified staff and our administrators are very positive. We have an active and supportive parents. Our class size, which is transitional kindergarten through third grade, is 21.5 to 1. I don't think there's another district in the state that has a class size that small. Does anyone know that we offer that? No one has any idea. Maybe one, but that's something we need to market, because the districts next to us may have classes at 24 or 26. If they have an alternative or a negotiated contract that says they could have higher class sizes, they may have higher than this. So that to me is key. When we have 8th grade math and our 9th and 10th grade English, those classes cannot be above 30 kids. And so while we have staffing ratios in other districts, they could have a 30-to-1 ratio, but they could be at 38. So those courses to us are key. Our 6th grade outdoor school experience, our focus on the arts program. I know we have some people from Breakthrough in here. Raise your hands if you're in here from Breakthrough. Breakthrough started with some work with the county as far as some funding sources, and we found out that the services that our counselors and folks at the Breakthrough program are providing is when that dollar ran out, we continued to fund that, and I think it's done a great job for our at-risk kids and having the ability to have someone to talk to and some strategy conversations with parents, so that's key. One of the things we don't talk a lot about is our teacher professional development, that we have 18 hours a year of PD, that we have site-level collaboration days built into our schedule, that up until this year, we were the only county in the district that offered a new teacher induction program. For the most part, everyone was going through the county office of ed. We offer our own, and then our teachers on special assignment to go out and provide support to teachers and to our school administrators and school sites. So when we look at where we're at with our local control accountability, we have stakeholder engagement, which is a key part of how we as a district plan what's going to happen the following year, and we budget. So for for Thousand Oaks or Conejo Valley, we have three really main priorities that we work on: conditions for learning, pupil outcomes, and the engagement piece. And if you look, these are the 8 state priorities, and if you look and you start counting, all 8 of these do fit in one of our categories. So we are meeting what the state is requiring, but it's not about just meeting that, it's what are we putting in place, which is key. Here are our 3 goals, district-wide. And so when we look at our LCAP, and it ties back to our funding source, we'll talk a little bit about funding. So this is where we're at statewide. As you look at 2021, the blue line and the orange line, they're equal to one another. That's when we should be fully funded under the new funding formula. The key piece is, as I say, fully funded, because that fully funded is only back to the 06, 07 level, pre-recession level. So it's not more dollars that have come in at that point in time. It's just to make us equal to where we were 7, 8 years ago. And as you look at 17, 18, 18, 19, and 19, 20, the blue line is really where the state's going to fund us at. The orange line is where we're being funded at now. And when I talk about gap funding and percentage, so if we say 73% of the gap fund will be funded in 1920, that seems like a large percentage, right? But it's only that 73% of that orange line to that blue line. So it's not a whole bunch of extra funding coming in. It's just whatever is left before we get fully funded. And I think that that's key to realize, because you'll say, oh, 73% funding this year, that's a big increase. Well, it's not. It's just whatever is left from where we started to where the state plans on having us finish. When we look at enrollment, so when you go back to our funding levels and you look at enrollment plays a key piece, but we're funded on average daily attendance. So if you look for this year, 17, 18, we did a demographic study. The demographic study said we'd be at 18,766 students. And to us, that number looked great because our projections showed that we'd be at around 18,558. And when I run enrollment today, we're at 18,862. So we're above our demographic study. We're definitely above where we as a district projected, which is key. But it's just not the enrollment, it's the percentage of kids that are showing up to school on a regular basis. And our district-wide is about 96, 97%, which is good, but we have 3% that we're missing in that funding based on that average daily attendance. This is just a little bit about what I talked about, where we're staffing. And so we have projection enrollment, we staff at numbers, and then our funding is based on ADA. And to get those 3 things to align is nearly impossible because we'll never have a 100% attendance rate, but we fund on enrollment. And so when you look at our dollars coming in versus our average daily attendance versus the cost of staffing, our staffing line is always going to be, for the most part, a little bit bigger. And when we look at our staffing for this year, we staffed at that 18,538. Our demographic study showed that we were going to be at 18,766, but we are higher this year at about 18,882 or 52 or something along those lines. So when we look at our budget proposal, this is key. You look at dollars coming in, dollars going out, revenue versus expenses. And you can say, oh, they're upside down. They're overspending $3 million. Well, we know when we closed out the books last year, and Dr. Hayek just presented to the board a couple board meetings ago, we did come in with a higher ending balance. So, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Victor, but that number now, would look more at $187 million as far as where we sit revenue-wise, and our expenses are at 183. So that did shift a little bit from us having a higher spending than revenue coming in, which is good for us moving forward. Is that correct? So what does our dollar look like? So if we look at $1, 85% of that dollar is money coming in through LCFF, through the state funding. 4% is coming in from incoming transfers. 6% is coming in from other state funding sources. 3% comes in from the federal government. That's a lot dealing with our special ed and our Title I, II, and IIIs. And then we have some local dollars coming in at 2%. So when we look at LCFF funding, and we know that we have salaries, our salary costs, if you go back here, certificated salaries are around $90 million. Classified salaries are at $24 million, close to 25, and our benefits are at 42. That's really what this dollar is looking at. So 49% of every dollar comes in or goes towards certificated salaries. 13% goes to classified salaries. We have our benefits at 23%. Our contracted services, we spend 5% on books and supplies. And then we have some others at other, and then capital outlay. So when we go back to pension costs, and I'm sure a lot of you may have heard about CalSTRS and CalPERS, they continue to increase. And by the time that our retirement gets fully to the percentage that they're telling us, it's about a 400% increase to where we were just 10 years ago. And so that's having a big effect on the district, because when the state goes and says, we're going to fund you at this level, at 06, 07, our retirement costs were not that much as they are now. So it's not a true getting us equal. We have larger increases in costs that happened since that period of time. So it's kind of a bait and switch. Oh, we're going to fully fund you, but we're going to increase other costs. And so when we look at that, our 60% of the dollar goes towards salaries, 14% towards benefits. So 74% of every dollar comes in is going, and 9% in pension. So 82, 83% is going out to employee costs, and then the rest is what we work on from the district's perspective in all of our departments and our school sites. So over the course of the multi-year projections and some of our assumptions, when I talk about LCFF funding, when we're going to be fully funded, 43% of that gap this year is being funded. Next year, remember that gap increased because they're funding us more. 71.5% of that gap will be funded in 18-19, and then in 19-20, that 73%. We think, and hearing everything, Governor Brown's going to want to fully fund LCFF before he leaves. So when he comes out with his budget in January, we may be fully funded next year and not have to wait out the last 2 years, but we'll see what happens at that point in time. Obviously, there's a lot of information on this slide, but the key pieces is really looking at our CalSTRS and CalPERS increases, and that just gets us through 19-20. We know that they will continue to go up to about 24%, and that just doesn't impact us. That impacts the city. That impacts all sorts of different organizations that are public entities. But for us, it is something that we have to pay attention to. And we also know that we do have increases in benefits every year, costs. So that too is making sure that we have healthy employees is key, because we need healthy teachers in the classroom and healthy employees doing their jobs. And in order to do that, we obviously have to continue to increase our cost for our benefit packages. When we look at enrollment over the course of the next 4 years, you can see which grade levels. TK3, we will see a growth of where we currently are, which is good, of about 280 students. The rest, you can see, we are projecting at this point in time to be in the negative. And that's where I go back to why marketing is key. Because we've got to turn some of these numbers around. And so we need the help of everybody in here to help market our district. School indicators, really quick, looking at our test results, it just came in from the state. We know that CVUSD on the language arts test, about 67% of our students, which was stated the same as it was last year, met or exceeded state standards. For Ventura County in this year, it was 47.5%, and then California as a state is at 48.6%. So we're above the county and above the state. But there are 14 states that implement the SBAC test, and all of those states and test scores are showing that there was a stagnant score this year from last year. So the researchers are out trying to figure out why that is. We would like to see that as an increase. And so is there something within the assessment itself that they need to look at and adjust moving forward? But all 14 of the states and all the states, all the county districts and all the state districts out of the 1,025 that we have statewide, all saw that we all stayed around the same as we did as the 15-16 school year. When we look at mathematics, we're at 59% as a district, and for Ventura County and for the state, you can see their numbers. And this is the key thing. I can make data say anything I want. So when you look at those two numbers district-wide, they look really good. But we have some subgroups that are struggling. Our special ed subgroup is struggling. Our English learners are struggling a little bit. Our free and reduced lunch students are struggling. I didn't include that information because I can make data say what I want it to say. And it would show that we're struggling in those areas. So I don't want to say we're doing great as a district, and I think we are. We've just got to figure out what other strategies we need to implement to work with those groups. Our graduation rate continues to be stellar at almost 98%. Which is much, and then you can see how we do in each of our subgroups, our low income, our special education, and our English learners. And then our community connection piece. Obviously, our measure I is really important, and we know that millennials these days are social and collaborative learners. They're impatient, as many of us know. And they're experimental and exploratory. So we've got to have classroom structures that allow those three things to take place. And that's really where the help of Measure I is coming into play. And as we see transition from your traditional rows to the ability to have different levels of desks, chairs, the ability to move classrooms around in just a couple seconds, to get into groups. Those are the things that we're working on, the Google kind of setting. And that's key for those three areas. Our website, we continue to transition some things on our websites, and we know that our website at the district is key for people who are looking to be in our district. Once you get in our district, you really just focus on your school site website. We get that piece. But we've got to do some marketing on our school website as well. Our social media and engagement continues to increase. And I know many of you in this room are probably on the social media side. I'm not much of a person who tweets. And I know in years past that may have looked different. But like I said, I will tell you, if you want to know what I'm doing, do a public records request, and you can see my calendar, because I don't feel the need to tweet out everywhere that I'm at, because it's about being with my family, and it's about being with my family administrators, and being involved in the activities with their teachers and our students. And to me, advertising that all over the place, that's my job. That's an expectation that I do that. So to me, I may not be as active, but there are folks that are active on there, and you can see that we see an increase in those numbers daily. Our mobile apps coming along as well. So what are the things that keep me up at night? Student safety is number one. And I would say over the course of the last few years, we haven't had a lot of issues with student safety, but it's about the preventative side of it and being out in front of something. If something was to happen, we had an incident last week where we were able to communicate out right away of an issue with a student who was in an activity after school, and that to me is key. The achievement levels of our English learners and our students who fall under that free and reduced lunch category is really important, and continuing to keep our levels where they're at for our other demographics, and also increasing them. our student enrollment and attendance. The birth rate in our community is dropping. It's really hard for young families and millennials to be able to move to the Conejo. And so that to me is something that I know Drew and his group's working on, and I hear some positive news came out last night, so that's, will be a benefit for the district. State funding levels and cost of living increases moving forward. We are a have-not district. Our demographics create us from a state funding level as a have-not district. We have 24% of our students fall in the supplemental funding realm, which is English learners, free and reduced lunch, and foster students. So we see 24% here, but if you look down the grade, they have concentration dollars. They have another funding source coming in from the state because their demographics look different than us. And so it's really hard, and it will be really hard moving forward to stay competitive with some of those districts with employee salaries, especially in the special education area, to me is a concern, but to stay competitive with our salaries, because their dollars are going to be continuing to increase based on their demographics. We're just a district that doesn't have those dollars coming in, and when we're fully funded, we're fully funded. Obviously, special education and our general fund contribution continues to we see a larger scope, and students who need more services, which comes with a cost, but we see less dollars coming in from the federal government, which means that the district has to backfill that and provide our contribution to make sure that we have a supportive program. So that's something that keeps me up. Obviously, Cal STRS and PERS, employee benefits costs, and then succession planning. What's going to happen when we have specific positions, people retire, people move on to other positions? Do we have backfills? To me is key. So how do we do all that? Well, we've got to move forward together. And I like to say we need to move forward together the Conejo way. And I think all of our school sites are on board with that. So moving forward, we have the transition of Ladera Elementary School to a STEAM Academy, transition of Acacia to a school-wide enrichment model magnet, continue the implementation of our Measure I, our facilities improvements and increases to our technology infrastructure, expanding our advancement via individual determination, our AVID program, and that's a specific program for students who are coming from families who have not had parents college bound, but have been identified as a group of kids who could benefit from these strategies and these classes in order for them to move on to be college bound. Expanding Century Academy and hopefully at some point in time finding a permanent home for the future. Increasing, and we have been increasing, but continuing to increase our mental health services for our students. Implement a marketing plan that will generate an increase in student enrollment and programs, which is key. Adjustments to our interdistrict transfer policy and how can we get more kids into our school district, to me is just unbelievably important. Recognize our special education paraprofessionals to better support our schools, or reorganize and support our schools and students. And Lisa Miller, who is our new director of special education, who's in the back over there, is doing a fantastic job and I think is bringing a new way of looking at how we provide support to our students, which is really positive. So CVUSD's why. So I've talked a lot about my why, a lot about things that are happening in our district, but as a whole, what is CVUSD's why? And so, let's show you.
The Conejo Valley School District is absolutely a choice destination for students and families. We just create this environment of support and enrichment.
Whether it's through athletics, academics, or extracurricular activities, I think the school district does a fantastic job of providing kids with an opportunity to explore their passion.
We are small enough so that there's a real sense of community.
Number one reason to be in the Conejo Valley is for the education.
There's always a big sense of how can one school help another.
We just have a great environment around our school and everyone feels really comfortable in it.
Everything connects and it feels like a big welcoming community.
All my teachers care about me.
I get to come to an amazing campus every day. We have the best faculty and staff here.
You get to do computers and you get to do lots of great art projects.
Conejo Valley School District embraces technology where they have access every single day to tablets or Chromebooks or devices.
All the things that Conejo continually puts at the center of all of our discussion is students first, students first, students first.
We have incredible open space for children. We have trees and grass, and it's just a creative area for kids to bloom and exist.
Through our athletics, we've had great success not only here at the high school level, but a number of our athletes have moved on to the collegiate and professional levels.
Our city and our school district really promotes our schools to be the center of a residential community.
They take their learning to all different kinds of levels. Every student's engaged, every student is empowered by their own learning.
So for me, when I listen to that, it's about students. And that to me is, like I said all along, our number one priority. And everything that we do is about the kids that we serve in our district, on our campuses, and the support that's provided from our teachers and support staff. So to me, I think that video is key as we move forward in how we explain our why. And I know that our principals have a lot of other whys. But from a district's perspective, I thought that video did a nice job of sharing our why. So with that, I know Mike's got a couple things. Actually, the panel asked me to talk longer and not have time for question and answers, and I think I've done that, maybe 15 minutes, a little bit too much. But next year, you won't need to hear about my background. But what you will need to, a little preparation for next year is you'll get to hear a little bit about the Conejo Way squared. So, and that will be, as we move forward, building our culture this year in family, what are we doing innovatively under the Conejo Way squared portion? So with that, I hope, remember I'm interim, so maybe not. There may be a whole new focus.
Thanks, Mark, so much. Panel, you were fantastic. You're ready for the witness protection program, which is great. Thank you all very much. We're going to be doing this. This is annual. We'll be back again next year. All the sponsors, I need you to come back because we don't want to have to pay to print another one of these. And just one quick commercial for all of you elementary and middle administrators who are here. 53 years, the Star underwrote the Ventura County Spelling Bee. And when the Star was sold, the Spelling Bee was about to go away. And I'm very fortunate to work at a great organization at Sage and Corwin, where we've taken over the sponsorship of that event. So it will have a 53rd, a 54th, and beyond year, which really exciting. And I get to be the MC this year on March, so I'm practicing pusillanimous, onomatopoeia. I was disappointed to find out that I actually don't get to be the pronouncer. There is someone who does that. But why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because the Conejo Schools Foundation has passed a resolution that the foundation will pay for all of the elementary and middle schools who want to sign up for the county spelling bee, your fees. So take advantage of those dollars that are here because we want to see a Conejo Valley school win this year, and we'll celebrate that next. Thank you all so much for your support of the Conejo Schools Foundation. We look forward to working with you this year. We're off to a great start. And Mark, thank you so much. Really, really exciting. I love Evel Knievel. That is so cool to know. Snake River Valley. I was there watching Wide World of Sports. I can't wait to talk to you more about that. I would have interrupted you earlier, but I was afraid of that right and left, and so thank you all very much for being here today. Thanks.